Welcome aboard Rocket Ship, the platform with the most relevant content for competitive examinations. As part of our series on answer writing for general studies papers of civil services main examination, we take up a question that might appear in GS paper 3. So, let us read out the question together. Capital formation is an important determinant of the growth potential of an economy. Explain. Write a note on the present state of capital formation in India. So, as usual, the question has two parts. In the first part, you have to explain how capital formation is an important determinant of growth potential, of the future growth potential of an economy. And in the second part, you have to give a brief account of the status of the state of capital formation rate in India. So it would be worthwhile to give a brief definition, a brief explanation of the concept of capital formation. Capital formation is the measure of increase in the capital base of an economy. This is a statement of the very idea of capital formation, that it is a measure of increase in the capital base of an economy. Now we would explain it. It denotes accrual of productive resources like machinery, infrastructure, etc. in an economy per unit time, normally any year. So what it actually is, it denotes accumulation of productive resources like machinery, infrastructure, and so on. It also includes accumulation of working capital. It includes accumulation of working capital apart from fixed capital. What is meant by working capital? For an example, things like stock, inventory, cash on books, etc. However, a more holistic view of capital formation talks of human capital along with physical capital. It is obvious, it is intuitive that human capital is sometimes more important than physical capital. Capital formation, we are stating that capital formation is a determining factor for the growth potential of an economy. How? Because it symbolizes investment in future. Obviously, investment is normally for future in the form of infra, improved machinery, managerial processes, and so on. Boost in employment, it means boost in employment in both production of capital goods as well as later in operating them. For an example, if we are producing machines, we are building new machines, it would generate some form of employment, and later when the machines are actually to be operated, it would again need someone to do that, so it would again employ them. As machinery, infra, etc. are factors of production, capital formation ultimately boosts production. It leads to an increase in production in time to come. Price stability, as not only, now it is read this point carefully. Price stability, as not only it means increase in supply of goods, because it boosts production leading to increase in supply, but also it means some of the purchasing power is diverted from immediate consumption to investments. That means there would be a little bit decrease in purchasing power which would be diverted to investment. And this what it means actually. Capital formation leads to price stability because it boosts supply as well as decreases demand. Innovation, especially in the form of upgrade of machinery and so on, upgrade of machinery, processes, and so on. Now, again, this is again an intuitive point that what is of greater importance is net capital formation, which deducts depreciation due to wear and tear and obsolescence, that is things becoming old, from gross capital formation. So net capital formation is still more important than gross capital formation. Now, the state of capital formation rate in India in the last decade or so, India has shown improvement in capital formation. There is a trend of improvement in capital formation in the last decade or so, though it fluctuates year by year. For India, gross capital formation is estimated to be, this is an important piece of statistics, try to remember it. India's gross capital formation rate is slightly more than 32% of GDP. However, this figure is less compared to our peers. For an example, for China, it is more than 42%. So we can see that compared to our peers like China, our capital formation rate, our gross capital formation rate is actually a bit less. In fact, quite less by 10 percentage point. Anyway, India's low capital formation. Now we would look into the reasons for low capital formation in India. Low capital formation level is due to many reasons. For an example, low income levels, which means not much is left after bare subsistence. You can well appreciate that if someone's income level is low, he would be hardly be able to make the ends meet, and so he would not be able to save much for investment and again saving. We also have this particular problem of an inefficient public sector, which often clocks loss and leads to destruction of value. You know that the public sector is inefficient in employing capital for production, and it often leads to losses and destruction of value in the long term. Complex, inconsistent policies that discourage investments. We know that many projects are struck because there is no consistency in the policy. Now, this point is also important. Inflation is also to blame as it impacts savings. It impacts savings, in turn affecting investment and capital formation. What actually happens? There is a concept that we are discussing later in this very article, that what happens when there is expectation of high inflation rate, that is inflation expectation, this concept of inflation expectation. When we are expecting the prices to rise, we have much incentive of consuming and much less of savings, because most probably our savings would decrease in value because of high inflation. So what happens? People are discouraged to save, and this would ultimately lead to decrease in capital formation due to inflation. Now, conclusion: capital formation results in boost in production, innovation, infrastructure investment, and so on. And so the need is to have consistent policies, price stability to decrease inflation expectation, as we have just discussed what inflation expectation means, and reforms in the public sector to encourage capital formation. So this is how we sum up our answer for today. But there are a few things we should remind you of. One is it's our intuition, it's our premonition that UPSC is going to ask a few questions about this concept: low savings rate in India. If time permits, we would discuss a few questions on low savings rate. But even otherwise, what you are required to do, prepare an article, prepare some form of notes on low savings rate in India, which is decreasing savings rate actually, low savings rate which is actually decreasing saving rates, decrease savings rate. So prepare notes on decreasing savings rate, because you should not be caught unguarded if the commission indeed asks question on this concept. Anyway, that is all for today. We meet again for the next lecture in a few days. We wish you all the best. Thank you.